In this section, we're going to talk about the basics of CRUD in MySQL. Now, CRUD is an acronym. It stands for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. 4 operations that we often will perform on different rows of data. We already know how to create rows of data. We kind of know how to read them using select. We're also going to learn a lot more about select. And then we'll talk about how we can update information. How do we alter a row that already exists? How do we delete rows? We don't know how to do that. We know how to drop an entire table. We know how to create a table, but we don't know how to do all 4 operations for individual rows of data. CRUD. So CRUD is an acronym that is not specific to SQL. We use this term in programming in general. It's not some incredible important term that you need to know, but I also haven't just made it up myself, just so you know. So let's go ahead and recap what we do know. We can create individual rows using insert into, right? We know how to do insert into the cats table, name and age, values, and then we provide a name and an age in that order. That is how we insert. There's nothing fancy about inserting. There's really not much more to it. We saw that we could do a multiple insert and have multiple rows that we insert at once. But other than that, all you need to know is that this order matters, name and then age, name and then age. If you had them reversed, you need to reverse them down here. Now, that's the C part of CRUD, but this section is really going to be focused on the RUD parts, the reading, the updating, and the deleting. So that's where we're going. We've got a lot to learn about all of these operations, but we've got to start with just getting some basic data, getting a clean slate so that me and you are on the same page and we have the same data, therefore the same results when we run the same operations. So that's what we'll do next. So as I just mentioned in the previous video, in order for us to all be on the same page and get the same results, we kind of need to drop everything and start over with a new table. So it's going to be a very simple table. I'm just going to give you a couple of lines of code. You either type yourself or copy and paste them. That way, we'll all have the same results when we select things or when we update things or delete things. So we're going to drop our cats table. I have, I think, a lot of tables called cats something. Let's look at our tables. Yeah, cats, cats 2, cats 3, cats 4. There's a lot of cats here. Let's plus all the unique cats. Anyway, let's just drop table cats, plain old cats, and then we're going to recreate it. Now, I recommend that you just copy this and paste it, or it's not too bad. You could type it out. Just make sure we have name, breed, and age, and some ID that's going to auto increment. And I'll copy and paste that over here. Hit enter. Describe table cats, or just describe cats. Looks good. And then the most important part is to insert all of these rows. So it's 7, 8 rows that I'm providing, just some basic cats that have a name, a breed, and an age. But this will allow us to have some data in common that we can work with and get the same results with, hopefully. So I did a bulk insert there, and let's just use what we know so far. Select star from cats. We should see 7 cats. They all have a cat ID, and then they all have a name, breed, and age. So hopefully you did that. You can find this code in the slides, but you can also find it just following this video as a resource. So either way, copy and paste it, or if you're adventurous, type it yourself. In the next video, we're going to talk about the R of CRUD, which is reading. Next up, a quick little concept. We're going to talk about aliases. When we print out or when we select data, we're not always printing it out, but when we're selecting data, we can rename a column to make it shorter or easier to understand. So it's not the same as renaming the column forever. It's just in our output result. For example, maybe I don't like working with cat ID. It's kind of a stupid name. I should just call it ID. Well, I can simplify my results by renaming or giving an alias to that column using the as keyword. Again, this is temporary only for this query. And my results would look like this. ID instead of cat ID. So let me show you. Let's do a select cat ID and name from cats. There we are. Cat underscore ID. You can see it technically is case insensitive because it should be lowercase. That's the way the column is named. But MySQL didn't care. Anyway, cat ID and name. I don't like cat ID. It's just too long. I need to shorten it. So I can rename it if right after the name of that column I'm selecting, I put as and then some other name. We have ID. But again, if I describe cats it's still called cat ID. If I select everything, let's just select star from cats, it's still called cat ID. It was just a temporary thing. So let's do one more example. Let's do name as kitty name. Sure, from cats. And our output has the column name kitty name, but of course the values here are from the original name column. So this isn't just about renaming a column when you print it out. When we get into fancier things like joining data together or writing fancy select queries that are really complicated, we might have some resulting data that doesn't really have a name. We use the as keyword to give it a meaningful name. But for now, the way I've introduced it is in a pretty limited use case. We would rename a column to make it shorter or easier to understand, but it doesn't help us that much yet. One rule of thumb that I like to share with students is just to be careful with what you're updating in general, right? You can do these mass updates and change everything in a table, which could be useful sometimes, but a lot of the time it's actually accidental. So to prevent any unexpected updates, I recommend that you select whatever you're trying to update before you actually perform the update. So if we go back to something like what we had right here, I updated cats to set age to be 14, where name is set to Misty. I could just trust that this is going to select what I expect, but maybe there's more than one cat called Misty, and I don't want to have them both update to have their age set to 14. I mean, maybe they have the same birthday on the same day, but if that's not what I'm anticipating, it's best to try the query out and try this where portion out before I update anything. So I could just copy that and then try doing, instead of select star from cats, especially if I have like thousands of cats, select star from cats, add my query, the where portion, so it's not actually a full query, but add this where clause at the end, and make sure this is what I want to target with my update. And if it is, then I go ahead and run that query. Update it to have age 14. Age was already set to 14 for that row, so it doesn't really matter. But the point is that instead of just diving right into an update, and the same will go for a deletion as well when we get there, I recommend selecting, testing out your where clause. Make sure you're getting the data you're expecting to update or you're expecting to delete before you perform those operations. You don't always have to do that, but it's just something I recommend, especially when you're learning SQL. Next up, we've got a relatively painless, quick update exercise. There's just 3 things I'd like you to update. The first one is we're all using the cats table, just to be clear there, the same cats information from the first video or second video in this section. So if you have altered those cats beyond repair, you might just want to copy and paste the same initial insert so we get all those cats back. We should have 7 cats. One of them is called Jackson. I'd like you to update that cat's name to be Jack. Then there's another cat called Ringo. I'd like you to change that cat's breed to be British Shorthair. And finally, there are 2 cats that are Maine Coons. If I select star from cats, these 2, Cindy and Dumbledore, I'd like you to update their ages to both be 12. Who knows why? Maybe they're twins, or not twins, but littermates, and we want them to have a birthday. Okay? Don't ask why. That's what we want to do. 3 pieces. I'll be back with the solution in the next video. All right, it's time for a solution to the relatively painless update exercises. Let's get going. The first piece is to change Jackson's name to Jack. So as I mentioned 2 videos ago, I like to start by making sure I'm targeting the correct rows before I do any updating. So I'll do a select star from cats, where, and then name equals Jackson. And let's make sure I get back the row I'm expecting. It's simple enough. There's 1 Jackson, but imagine we're updating multiple rows. It's a good idea to verify what we're selecting before we actually do the update. So now I can say update, and then we're going to do cats set name to be, I believe it was supposed to be Jack, where name equals Jackson. And there we go. Let's just do a select star from cats just to see our result. This is not really a good way to verify your results or that it worked in general if you have a lot of data, but if we have like 7 rows, we can just quickly find out where's Jack. But if we had 10,000 rows, it's not going to work for us. So we might want to select based off of something else and narrow it down. Anyway, so that part worked. Next up, change Ringo's breed to British Shorthair. So I'll do the same thing. Select star from cat, and then I'll do where breed equals, and then, or rather, I have that backwards, where name equals Ringo. We're selecting by name, and we're changing Ringo's breed from tabby to British Shorthair. So we can keep that where portion and just delete the select, and instead do an update cats set breed to be British Shorthair, where name is Ringo. And again, I'll just do the easy cheating way. I'll just select everything from cats, and we should see Ringo now is a British Shorthair. And then finally, update both Maine Coon's ages to be 12. So once again, I'll follow the same process. Select star from cats. Before I do my update, I'm going to find out how many cats are there where breed is Maine Coon. And there's 2, and that's what I expect. I want to update both of them to be 12 years old. Yes, it doesn't make any sense. One is 10, the other's 11. There's a bug in our system. Who knows? So instead of selecting, I'm going to do an update. Update cats. Set age to be 12. Where breed is Maine Coon. And then once again, let's verify. Select star from cats. And we see those 2 Maine Coons now have an age of 12. And that's it for our simple exercise. Hopefully you were able to go through that and not lose your mind out of boredom. Next up, deletion. It's time to get some practice deleting using MySQL. Using the cats table, the same 7 cats that are in there, I'd like you to delete all 4-year-old cats. Do that first. And then delete the cats whose age is the same as their cat ID. So a little trickier. If we go back to our cats, at least 2 of them have the same age as their ID. It might just be, actually, I think it's just 1 now because we updated earlier. So it would be Jack has cat ID of 7, age of 7. But I don't want you to hard code that in and use the fact that his name is Jack or that his age is 7. I want the query to be based off of the cat ID and age. No matter how many matches there are, I want them all deleted. But again, in this case, I think it's just 1. And then finally, delete all the cats. But don't drop the table, just empty it out. All right, I'll be back with a solution in the next video. I wish you luck, but you don't need it. Here's a quick solution to the delete exercise. First up, delete all 4-year-old cats. So like I said, I like to make sure I can select those first. Select star from cats where age equals exactly 4. And it looks like there's just 1 of them. Age is 4, Ringo, great. So instead of doing a select star, I'm going to do a delete from cats where age equals 4. And I should also get some confirmation, right? I see 1 row affected. That is a very, it's an understatement. It wasn't just affected, it was removed. If I do a select star from cats, we'll see Ringo is just gone entirely now. And if I tried to rerun that query from earlier, a couple lines ago, select star from cats where age is 4, we get an empty set. We have no resulting rows. Next, delete the cats whose age is the same as their cat ID. So once again, I like to start with a select star from cats, and then where age is equal to cat ID. We saw this when we talked about selecting. With where, we can do things like 2 different column names and compare them. Now there's only 1 matching cat, so we see Jack, cat ID is 7, age is 7. Well, we're going to delete you, Jack, technically also cat. Delete from cats where age equals cat ID. If I try to run my select again, it's gone. Select star from cats. We're now down to 4 cats. I deleted egg in the intro to deletion video, just in case you're wondering how we went from 7 to 4. Well, now we're going to go from 4 to no cats. Delete all of them. And this one's simple enough. You just want to be careful with this. If I do delete from cats and nothing else, they're all gone. So be careful if you have data you care about, but we don't have anything we care about. I'm sorry, cats. We've shut down the shelter and euthanized all of you. Goodbye. Now we look at cats. Nothing in there. Okay, that's it. Next up, we've got a much bigger exercise to put it all together. Hey, welcome back. If you're looking at my desk right now and you're asking, wow, why is there so much CRUD on it? Well, you're on to something. This section is all about CRUD. So CRUD is an acronym. It stands for four things: CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. And they are the four basic actions that we want to be able to do to our data. So we've actually seen two components already. We've seen how, let's say we're working with users. We've seen how to create users with the insert command. We've seen how to read users, take them back out, spill the milk out of the database. That is the read section, which we did with select. Now we also are going to review more about select and insert, but primarily we're going to see how to update and delete information. So how do we change something in our database if we made a mistake, or let's say a user changed their password. They clicked a forgot my password link and they want to reset it. We need to change it in the database. And then delete, let's say our user decides to leave our site for some really bad reason. We can delete him or her. So that's the focus of this section. We're going to have a ton of exercises because we're seeing a lot of commands. And now that we have those four commands in place, we'll be able to go do a lot of stuff. They're kind of the fundamental four things of any database or any data. So tons of challenges coming up. Look forward to that. And I'll see you basically in the next section when I have to do another one of these videos. See you in a bit. Let's talk about the R in CRUD, which is read. How do we retrieve or read data that's already in a table? We kind of know the answer. We use select. We've seen this before. I just used it in the previous video. We've only seen one flavor of select though, which is select star from a table. Select star from, I think I still have my employees in here. Select star from cats. We've been using it just to check our work. That is an example of reading from a table, selecting rows from a table, and viewing them, right? It's retrieving information. But there's a lot more to this select. Sometimes this is what we want, select star from cats. And this star, the select star from cats, is a way of saying, give me all the columns for this table. Give me every single column, and in this case, for all the rows. So that's why we see cat ID, name, breed, and age, or ID, last name, first name, middle name, age, current status. Those are all of the columns. That's what that star does. But we don't have to get all the columns. We can actually narrow down what we want to get back. We can say, I only want name. Select name from cats. Let's try it. So let me do star just once again so we have that up top. And then let's select name from cats. It has to match, of course. That has to be spelled the same as one of these column names. And now I'm only getting this portion of the table. Well, I'm highlighting everything, but I'm trying to highlight this section here. Names. Only the names. We could also, of course, do select age from cats. Let's try that. Select age from cats. Technically, I keep going back to make sure I have all uppercase or all lowercase. It doesn't actually matter, as we've seen. But this just looks ugly. I don't want you to have to endure such ugly code. But anyway, we get all of the ages and only the ages. So maybe not that helpful on its own, but this is something that is helpful. Let's say that eventually we want to find the average age, the oldest age, the youngest age. We can work with just ages using select age. Right now, though, we can't do any of those operations, so we're simply retrieving all of the ages. So we also can combine multiple columns. I could get name and age. I just separate them by commas, or with commas. So let's do select name, comma, age from cats. How am I missing that uppercase M every time? And there we go. Only the name and the age. Or select name and breed from cats. Now we only get the name and the corresponding breed columns for every row. So if we do select star, just one more reminder, that gives us all the columns. And you may have, for really complicated tables, you might actually have dozens of columns, if not more. So when you do a select star, you won't even be able to see all of the columns printed out easily. So sometimes it's just nice to slim things down to the actual columns you care about. That's it for this video. In the next one, we've got some additional syntax for select. Next, we're going to talk about the where clause. So where is a special keyword in SQL, or in MySQL, but also just SQL in general. that allows us to narrow down the rows that we're working with. So in our case, we're talking about selecting rows, and currently we're selecting every single row. We have 7 cats, we get 7 rows back. Even if we specify we only want name and breed, that's just the columns. We're getting all the rows. But using where, we can narrow things down. And I want to be clear here, where is not limited to working with select. We will be using where to make updates or to delete rows as well. So it's kind of a jack of all trades. But in our case, we're starting with select. So we can use where to narrow things down. For example, to find all the cats, select star from cats, where age is exactly equal to 4. So there's different ways we can select using where. It's not just equality, but that's what we're going to start with. Age equals 4. So let's try it. Select star from cats, where age equals 4. And we see 2 rows, Ringo and Egg, the cat Egg, who is 4, they're both 4 years old. So we're still getting all the rows, but if I wanted to, I could say I only want name and age from cats, where age is 4. And there we go, name and age. Same rows, but just 2 columns. Additionally, I see some students get confused and think that we have to select age if we are trying to use where with age, but we don't. I could only get the names from cats where age equals 4. This is going to happen first. This kind of happens second. So the first thing that will happen is, all right, we're going to cats table. I'm SQL, or I'm MySQL, and we see that we're looking for all rows that have age set to 4. Okay, we found 2 rows. What does the user want back? The user only wants name, so we give them name. So you don't have to actually select a column to work with it over here. They're completely independent. So this just gives me the names of the cats who are exactly 4. But there's more that we could do. We could do a match based off of a piece of text. If that's what we're trying to do, we have to use quotes, of course, to match a text or a piece of text. Let's do select star from cats where name equals egg. And you might think I have to capitalize it exactly the same, which sometimes you do. There's different ways of setting this up, but for now, we don't. If I just do name equals egg, I am matching it. It's uppercase E, that's great. But if I did lowercase e here, it still works. Even if I did lowercase e, uppercase G's, we still are matching. It is case insensitive in this example. But there are ways of enforcing that case sensitivity. But a lot of the time, you don't really want that. It can help you out a bit more if you're just trying to find something and you're not sure of how it's capitalized. Although I probably wouldn't spell egg this way with 2 uppercase G's. So we can select based off of a numeric column where it's exactly 4, a varchar or a piece of text where it's exactly some string like egg, and there's some fancier operations we're going to learn in a little bit. But up next, it's time for you to get some practice with some rapid fire exercises. That's the next video. It's time for some rapid fire exercises. These will be quick. There's a series of outputs that I've generated. So I ran some query to get this or to get this, and I want you to write those queries. They all are with the cats table, so the same data that we've already been working with, Ringo, Cindy, Dumbledore, and so on. Okay, so this first one I'd like you to do is write the query that selects the following: cat ID for all the rows. So the second one, I'm going to have a solution video after this, by the way. The second one is to write the SQL that selects this: name and breed for all the rows. And then next up, a little trickier. These are both tabby cats. So remember that every cat has a breed, and there's 2 of them that have that breed of tabby. So select those 2 cats, but I only want to see name and age outputted, printed out. And then an even trickier one, I didn't show you how to do this. These are the 2 rows in our table that have a cat ID that is the same as their age. So you'll write a query that generates this output for these cats. Egg, right, has an ID of 4 and an age of 4. But I don't care about the name and the breed. I only want cat ID and age printed out. So there's 4 pieces. In the next video, I'll do this myself. I'll see you then. This is the solution video for the rapid fire exercises. The first query I'd like you to write prints out the cat IDs for all rows. So it's as simple as select cat ID from cats, no where clause. We just want all of them. And we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not all that useful. Next up, we need to work with the name and the breed for all rows. It's all 7 rows, so we don't have a where clause, but we are going to narrow down what we select. It's not going to be star, it's name and then breed. And I guess to be specific, that's the order we want. If I had done breed and then name, they would be reversed. Even if it's the same information, it wouldn't be quite as correct. So name, comma, breed from cats, all of them. And we see Ringo down to Jackson. Okay. The third piece, write the SQL that selects the tabby cats. So we'll start by selecting star from cats, and then where breed is equal to tabby. So breed equals tabby. So that gives us 2 rows, Ringo and Misty. But we can't stop there because I'm only supposed to get name and age. So I'm going to narrow this down and not select everything. I'm going to select name, comma, age from cats where breed is tabby. So give me the names and the ages of our tabby cats, Ringo 4, Misty 13. That looks correct. And then finally, somewhat trickier, write a query to select the cat IDs and the age from the cats that have the same cat ID and age. So if I select them all, we see, age is set to 4 here. A cat ID is 4, cat ID is 7, age is 7. So what we can do is select star from cats where, and then we can do this. Instead of saying cat ID is 4 or cat ID is 7, I can actually say cat ID equals age. And MySQL can figure that out. It can say for each row, is that row's cat ID the same as its age? If that's the case, then we're going to select that. We will include that in our data that is printed out. However, right now I'm doing cat ID, name, breed, and age. Technically, I'm only supposed to print out cat ID and age. So let's do that again, but change this, narrow it to be cat ID, comma, age. And now we see 4477. Not very useful, but it is something that we can do. And of course, all of these queries could be written in a file. I should just show that here from Workbench or dbgate. Let's do Workbench. I will run this here. So I'll click this little lightning bolt and we see 4477. There we go. Okay, so that's our exercise. We've got a lot more to cover. So next up, we move on to the U in CRUD, which is update. How do we update existing rows in a table? This is something we do pretty frequently. We certainly insert and select more often than updating, but it still is really common to need to change data that's already in a table, whether we have some website and we're storing user information, a user changes their password or they change their username, or we alter some existing order, something in a shopping cart, items get added or removed. Things are dynamic, we update information. So how do we update inside of SQL? We use an update query, so update and then the table, and then set. So they kind of go together. Well, they don't kind of. They go together in the same way that we saw, insert into and then values. That's a pair. Update and then some table. Set is a pair. So in this case, we have to say 2 things. What are we trying to update? We're changing breed to be short hair. And then on which rows are we performing that update? Only where breed is set to tabby. So if we didn't include this where, let me just show you on a different table. I don't want to mess with our cats table because we have an exercise coming up, but I think we have employees. If I did select star from employees, okay. If I did something like update and then employees set, and then let's set last name to be Rooster Beard, just like that. If I hit enter here, what we just did was update every single row in the table, employees, to have a last name of Rooster Beard. Now in our case that was 3, but if there was 10,000 employees or 100,000 employees, they all would have a new last name of Rooster Beard. So if we don't specify the where, it's totally valid. We don't get an error, but we probably don't want to do that most of the time. We usually want to be more precise with our updates. But if you ever do need to change every row in a table, you would use this syntax. Update the table, set whatever you want to set, and you don't have a where at the end. Now we can also update multiple fields at once. So let's say I want to set, we're doing a very sad mass layoff. We're updating everybody to have current status of, fired or laid off. And we're going to set everybody's last name to be who cares. Very sad. We've laid everyone off. We don't care about their name, and their status is going to be laid off. It's just a stupid example to show you that we can update multiple columns at once. So we say the table employees, and then we're going to set current status to be whatever we want. Let's say fired or laid off. And then with a comma, I can also say last name equals who cares. Okay, it's kind of a cruel update, but let's do it. And if I select star from employees, we see that both of those columns were changed, in this case, for every single row. So we don't have to update one piece of a row at a time, one column. We can update as many as we want, but I think you'll find you tend to not update a whole bunch of different columns all in one go, but you can. It's just maybe less common in the real world. So, as I said, you don't have to have the where, but we often will have a where clause at the end to target what we're updating. So this case is saying find all of the cats that have breed of tabby and set breed to be short hair. Or here's another example. We're going to update all the cats in this table that have name of Misty to have age of 14. So let me show you that one. Let's go back to our cats, select star from cats. So here's Misty. I can select her, although I'm not going to use select. I'm going to use where along with update. So update cats, and I want to set her age to be 14 because she had a birthday. It's 13 right now. I'm going to set it to be 14. Again, if I just hit enter now, every single cat would have age of 14, but I'm going to narrow it down and say where name is equal to Misty. And if I do a select star from cats, we see Misty is now 14 years old. Okay, so that's the basic concept of how we update. We use update, some table name like cats, and then we set some values. So we can say column equals some val, another call equals some other val, and then often we clarify where we're trying to update using the where clause. So only where name is equal to chicken or age is equal to 12. Whatever we want, that's the basic pattern. Update with set, and then usually a where at the end. The final piece of our CRUD puzzle is D for deletion, or actually some people think it's for destroy. It doesn't matter. They mean the same thing. We need to learn how to delete rows from a table in SQL. So it's pretty straightforward. We use delete from, and then some table name, and then usually we're going to narrow it down because if we did something like this, we're going to delete every row from a table. So we don't delete the table. That would be done with drop table. But delete from, and then a whole table name with nothing else will completely empty out the table. It's an empty shell, a husk that contains no rows. So let's start by deleting our cat named Egg if we wanted to. Here Egg is he or she is a Persian cat, 4 years old. Just for the sake of time, I won't verify my selection. I'll just do a straight up delete from. I see a lot of students forget the from. So I'll see like delete cats, where something. If I did name equals egg, it doesn't work. We get a SQL syntax error. It has to be delete from, just like select from. Delete from, and then cats, where name equals egg. And I'll do a select star from cats. We don't have egg anymore. Goodbye, Egg. I hope you were adopted, and that's why you're gone, not because you passed away in our care. And then, as I said, if you do a delete from and then a table name, nothing else to narrow it down, It works in the same way as if you did an update with no where clause. You update every row in the table. But in this case, we're deleting every row. So why don't I work with employees? Select star from employees. We've got 3 rows. If I do delete from employees, just like that, well, we have no rows left. But the table still exists, right? If I did describe employees, we don't get an error. The table is here, it's just totally empty. So sometimes maybe you want to do that, you want to clear out a table, but more often than not, you're trying to delete some targeted portion of a table, some set of rows, if not just a single row. So just like with updates, I recommend selecting what you're trying to delete before you actually do the delete. Make sure that your where clause is selecting the things you expect. Okay, next up, delete exercise.